Across the street over here, you'll see a concrete slab over there by the Munchie store. That used to be a hardware store. Years ago, it was called Hunt's. I wasn't sure what it was called in the early 70s. But I remember as a kid, early teens or before teenage years, my dad used to come down there and get fertilizer. They'd come in on big old semis. It was bagged. It was coming on big semis. And as being farmers, we used to come bring our big trucks down there and have to unload them from semi to truck. And little as we were, instead of having to pick it up, we had to take it and drag it across the truck and stack it because we were so small. But that place there, it became, over the years, it was vacant, and then it became what they call Club 41, which is some people call a juke joint. I wasn't sure about it. I don't hang around juke joints. But in later years, I understand it caught fire and burnt down for unknown reasons, but the people don't want to talk about it. It's transformed quite a bit. So I didn't say, when I came in 78, like I said, I was under Secretary of State. We used to have, we still have the Florida Folk Festival. We still have the Genie Audition, which just finished up this past weekend.
What is that again?
Genie Auditions.
The Genie Auditions?
I Dream of Genie.
Oh.
Stephen Foster had a song of I Dream of Genie. And the song, pretty much they sang opera songs. What I call it Screaming Jimmy, but that's just my thoughts. But they sing high tone of voices. And when we first started doing it here, it was kind of cool because we didn't state DNR was never a part of it then. And when we had the Genie Balls, we all had to wear suits and ties, which is kind of unique. We had this pond over there, which still got the pond, and they had wild ducks in it. Well, when these girls got to singing, ducks sat there and I don't know if they had ears or not, but they started hollering, just started all kind of racket. They'd come up, some of the girls come off the stage just crying their eyes out, "Mom, the ducks messed me up." Well, I know it's been getting a lot hotter in the summer months. It's not, and we used to have wet winters, now we got dry winters. The spring house, so to speak, the flow of the water, it's pretty much dried up. The reason we made a change because the taxes went up. We're always in drought conditions. If you don't have a pivot, which is an irrigation pivot, if you don't have somebody to put water on something, you go out and prepare your farm, your land. You got to fertilize it. You got to cultivate it 2 or 3 times. You got to go in and get the weeds out of it, lay it by. But then it was drought conditions. So over all these years, fertilizer went up. No rain. So if you didn't have no rain, no pivots, so it went out of the ground, you couldn't make a living with it. So they had to come out with something different. When my dad retired, he was in the Korean War. He was a veteran of the Korean War, and did farming for years. Then he decided to, as he was farming, he was also a custom combiner. That's where people take a big combine or something, and you go from field to field. People had these little fields of corn. They didn't have a combine. They just had a tractor and they could do it. So you got people still do it today. We did that for a lot of years, from 73 to up to 95. But like the economy, your tags got so expensive. You had regular E-license, you had to go to a CDL, which that cost a lot of money. Your tags, you had to buy them 12 months a year, which we bought all these tags for these big trucks, which is expensive. And you didn't use them 3 times a month, three months out of the year. So that hurt you. Insurance, drought, everything far under the sun went up, and you couldn't make nothing off of it. By the time you figured in all your work, all your equipment use, all your fuel, they had to get out of it.
That makes sense. Right.
So we get these big old inner tubes, take a door, and this is kind of funny, you have to picture this. It's pretty neat. Take a big old door, put it on the inner tubes. You take one of these big old cast iron tubs, you see with your feet on it, stuck it on top of the board. The water current's going pretty good. But started off doing great, but we wasn't thinking ahead. When you got going down the creek bed, you got these trees that fall over in the water. Well, you can't get under the water; it's flowing pretty fast, and all you do, the tub goes like this, and you're kind of out in the trees. If you can't duck, you're up in the trees, it was fun. I mean, until somebody got hurt. We had to go back later and fish out the tub.
I was gonna say, it
Because-
must have sank.
Always sank like a rock.